It was the 90s and everyone had a bad girl comic, from Marvel to DC to Tekno Comix. Yes, thanks to Neil Gaiman, even Tekno Comix had their own bad girl for the 90s. Hello and welcome to the weekly vmcampos Comic Book Club. I'm your host, vmcampos. This is the show where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection and rate it on the factors of the cover art, interior art, plot, and enjoyability on the book on a scale of 1 to 5. And then I tell you to get it or shred it. This week I'm reviewing Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice #1, published in 1995 by Tekno Comix. Let's check it out. As usual, first a little bit of background information. Alright, Tekno Comix. They were a publishing venture that began in the 90s, right at the time of the great comic books crash. They got in on the ground floor of comics when they were at the height of the speculator bubble, where everyone was going to get rich from comics that sold millions of copies, like Spider-Man #1, X-Force #1, X-Men #1, after the founding of Image Comics, Spawn #1, and the like. And so, of course, this gravy train was going to keep going on forever, especially with such amazing stories as the death of Superman and the breaking of the Bat. So it was never a better time to get into the world of comics to make you rich. Tekno Comix, powered by Big Entertainment, jumped into the fray as well and gave it all they could. And just like in a fray in the world of Gru Comics, it did not turn out well for the people battling Gru in that fray. I think my metaphor works, because Tekno Comix went bankrupt before the end of the 90s, right after the mid-90s. And it basically lives on in the memories of those of us that were there. Everyone else that didn't experience comics at that time, they don't know Tekno Comix, and even less know that Neil Gaiman was involved in the creation of a 90s bad girl, Lady Justice. This is a series that went on for a few dozen issues in 1996, 97 or so, and it was, spoiler alert, based on concepts created by Neil Gaiman. It's not that Gaiman wrote any of this himself, literally, and of course didn't draw it, but it went on to some amount of publishing semi-success, I guess, because it was a 90s bad girl. And after rereading this issue for the first time in years, there was a lot that I didn't remember. So I can't wait to talk about it in detail with you. Let's get on with the main review. Cover art. First of all, I'll give this cover right away a 5 out of 5. I love this cover. Tom Brereton is one of my favorite unsung heroes of art of 90s comics, and his painterly style gives a realism to a cartoony effect that I really enjoy. If you get a close-up of the details of this painted cover, we can see the brushstrokes in various places. We see the great mastery of light and dark. Look at those wisps of hair for Lady Justice. Of course, we got a big sword and other big aspects of the character, and I think Brereton does a great job of capturing this character and her attributes on the cover. Now, we also got a Bill Sienkiewicz cover via Dave McKeon. Here is the alternate cover, where if you are into looking at the barcodes of comics, so this says 00111 and 00112. Now, technically, 2 often denotes a second printing. That final digit there is often a second printing, but I couldn't really find anything in the indicia that said this is a second printing. If it is, I apologize. I think it's just the variant cover. And again, this is a Bill Sienkiewicz cover, which feels much more like a Dave McKeon mixed media cover to me. So tell me in the comments, which do you prefer more, the cover A, Dan Brereton cover, or the cover B, Bill Sienkiewicz cover? Tell me in the comments. I prefer the Brereton cover, actually, and that's why I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. Interior art. I wish it was Brereton art, and no shade to the other artists, but come on, fully painted, 24 pages, Tom Brereton cover. You know what, I'm going to keep saying Tom Brereton, but I meant Dan Brereton. I'm getting him confused with Tom Brevoort. Dan Brereton, Tom Brevoort. Sorry about that. Dan Brereton. Anyway, I wish it was Dan Brereton cover interior art all the way, but we've got Mike Netzer as penciler, Rick Magyar as inker, Ken Brusnak as letterer. And we've got some digital coloring by other people here. All right, so this definitely feels like a 90s comic. We've got this glossy, slick paper that Marvel and DC hadn't fully embraced by this time yet. They would, of course, and then continue it to nowadays, 30 years later. But this sort of slick paper on issue number 1 made it stand out compared to the newsprint that a lot of the other comics were using. Now, okay, visually, so we've got this mission prep sequence on the very first page. Guns are drawn in rapid succession. I like those panel layouts there. And then we have this beautiful double-page spread with a Statue of Justice looming over the city. The corrupted city with some other tragedy happening here. We start basically in media res. That's a fancy term for the action in the middle of the action. And then we back up to other parts. And now look at this. This is yet another just action-packed sequence of panels. Just action, 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 action. Some of it is wordless, some of it with words. And then, wow, this is not Marvel or DC with such explicit violence. Right away on page 4 of the comic, a nurse is shot at point blank with blood everywhere, and then even more shown on the wall. And wow, so there's going to be a lot of explicit violence throughout this comic, a lot of explicit language as well. And then we have these really interesting color choices. That's Janine, the main character, who will become Lady Justice soon enough. No spoilers, but just that color palette is amazing compared to realistic color palettes throughout. Kind of a Neil Adams-esque facial expression over here. But then we've got something that kind of feels like Tales from the Crypt or an EC Comics sort of style, pre-code horror. And then we get to a really Baroque home and then other sort of impressionistic things. Great contrast of red colors and blue colors. And then we have some mysterious figure appearing in Janine's dreams. What does it all mean? Well, we'll see soon enough. So yeah, interior art is... Okay, so it's... As I said, I would have really liked Brereton to be completely the interior artist. But interior art is good. It's fine for a 90s comic. That splash page there, I think, stands out really well. I guess I would say that a lot of the art is very garish, and usually that word has a very negative connotation, and I don't think that I mean it as a negative connotation, but yeah, the art here is garish, maybe just in the pure sense of the word, but I kind of enjoy it. It's kind of trashy and enjoyable. Now, here's a very subtle effect with computer colorization. We're seeing Lady Justice through the peephole here, so she's kind of faded out through the glass compared to the full colorization. So there's like little flourishes here and there, and panel layouts are interesting. Here we have an action scene, close-up of fists, and then a worm's eye view of the tough guy getting just completely wailed upon by Lady Justice. She moves on to the next guy to mess with, and there's just lots of action going on panel layouts. I think sometimes there's an over-reliance on gradients that is not necessary, but I guess it's more realistic in a way, but it's just not necessary. Again, it's kind of garish. Here we have the DeLuca effect, where you toss a character, or a character moves throughout a scene, and the character is found in multiple spots in the same panel, which is of course impossible in real life, but one of the hallmarks of sequential animation, also known as comic books. And we got more action right there, and that guy totally is devastated here by Lady Justice. She's really meting out the justice on this guy that totally deserves it. We will learn why in the plot in a moment. But yeah, the art, interior art, let's give this a 5 out of 5 for all of its garish beauty, fascinating panel layouts, and over-reliance on 90s digital coloring. Either you love it or you hate it. And then there's the plot. Okay, the plot is kind of interesting, but let's first give credit where credit is due. C.J. Henderson is the writer, and nowhere here is listed Neil Gaiman as having a direct hand on any of this, though we have it right on the title, Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice. And again, on the cover here, Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice. So if you were looking for Sandman-style nuance, Death, the High Cost of Living, American Gods, Black Orchid, or anything like that, you're not really going to find it. And if you look further in the fine print, based on a concept created by Neil Gaiman. So I would love to have been in that pitch meeting to hear about Gaiman's concept for this big busted bad girl character that is supernatural and is getting revenge. All right, so let's read a little bit over here. She is justice, represented since the beginning of time as a robed woman, blinded, armed with naught but a sword and a sense of balance, a woman cut off from the masculine world of clues and hard realities, forced into the depths of her remaining senses, touch, smell, taste, hearing, listening, feeling, a woman joined with her innermost self, focused only on her mission, a woman who cannot be deceived, cannot be fooled, a woman blind to all but justice. Let justice be done, though the world perish. And that was the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand. So that really sets the stage for some grandiose stuff, right? Well, not really. We've got some hoodlums that are trying to shake down this and that, and someone gets caught in the crossfire. You've got Janine and the tragedy that is all around her life, where she was first going to be a ballerina. Again, this starts in media res, so we back up to show that she was going to be a ballerina, but tragedy struck, and then she's incapacitated now in a wheelchair. And then the people around her dying. Her own brother got shot. He was a police officer, just caught in the crossfire of these criminals coming into the hospital. And yeah, just tragedy after tragedy. And just the people that she loved are just cut down in the prime of their youth. Well, wouldn't you know it, one of them is holding on to this rag that has mystical powers from Lady Justice, that when she puts it on, she can walk again, she can dance. But how is it possible? Because destiny has put itself in your hands. Go to the mirror and look. You are no longer Janine Michael Farrell. You are Lady Justice. So basically the premise here, which is kind of interesting, is that the mantle of Lady Justice passes on from character to character. It's not the same character in the whole run of this series, which went on to a little bit over a dozen issues or so. It jumps over to various other people, various other women that have been wronged. So that's a pretty cool concept for a plot. They all inherit the power of Lady Justice for some amount of time to right some wrong, to kick ass brutally, and then once they are satisfied, the mantle moves on to someone else. So I kind of like that. I wonder how much of that was originally Gaiman's plot, and how well he liked it after he signed off on the contract and cashed his checks. Because, again, companies like Big Entertainment were just pumping a lot of money into comics because, again, we're all going to be rich. This first issue ends with a to be continued after Lady Justice gets revenge on one of the main guys and just, again, totally wails on him. I just love this part at the end here where she's doing ballet on his corpse. It is the crowning performance of a former ballerina brought out of retirement by fate, choreographed by destiny, performed for an audience of one, who purchased his ticket at the going rate and now has been paid in kind. To be continued. So yeah, you're not going to see that in many comics. The main character performing fatal ballet on her enemies. Hilarious. We're going to give this, of course, then a perfect 5 out of 5 on the plot. And lastly, the enjoyability. So overall, it was an enjoyable book. Again, what really puts it over the top is this amazing cover by Brereton. I also like to peek in here or there on various ads. Oh, but before that, so this is, don't tell me that this is not peak 90s design. Some sort of nebula in the background, illegible text on a dark background, shiny metal design on their logo, now transmitting. Wow, this internet stuff is really taking off. Ads are kind of sparse here and there, but the ones that are there are pretty cool. To create the ultimate Star Wars experience, we had to set our sights a little higher. And here they're promoting the utterly amazing Doom clone Dark Forces. I loved this game back in the 90s. I loved all of those Doom-esque games, and Dark Forces was a cut above with LucasArts efforts. I would play this game so many times. It was so cool when it tied into the actual movie lore. So Dark Forces, first-person firepower in the Star Wars universe, available now on CD-ROM. Yeah, I remember it was so hard to get this game to run on the older computers that I had access to. After all, the brand new medium of CD-ROM was just so advanced. So that gives me a lot of nostalgia. Another cool ad over here. We deliver sci-fi and fantasy like no one else. Take 5 for $1 with membership. So this is obviously the book version of Columbia House. And if you have memories of Columbia House getting 10 CDs for $1 or 1 penny, whatever it was, and then getting trapped into a cycle of having to buy the next album at full price and then having no answer for your parents when the bill got racked up so high. Yeah, I got traumatized by that as well. Anyway, here you could do the same thing, but in book format. So pause it, check out some of those books on your own. I always wanted that Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. I should probably finally get it now that I'm a grown man and can afford it. All right, so yeah, this is the clearly the 90s stuff, the 90s aesthetic and vibe. Just this incredibly high-tech, futuristic, but now retro-futuristic style. With illegible text on a dark background, microchips and the like here and there, and then this faux screenshot. Just love this. Now, I wonder if 1-800-444-TECHNO still exists, or if you can send an email to techno99a@prodigy.com. Oh, Prodigy, those were the days. So anyway, we've got the process this sort of letters column, editorial page sort of thing. And then we've got various scheduled events that were to happen in 1995. We were going to talk with Scott Eaton, which was the penciler of Leonard Nimoy's Primortals, Bill Sienkiewicz, cover artist of Gene Roddenberry's Lost Universe and Lady Justice, and James Vance, scripter of Neil Gaiman's Mr. Hero. So yeah, Leonard Nimoy, Neil Gaiman, Isaac Asimov. Tekno Comix was licensing out or doing deals, that is, with various big names that were really going to make them rich in the world of comics. They also jumped onto phone cards. You youngsters don't even know what these are. You'd have to go to a public payphone and then use the minutes on your card to be able to call your family. And they came in a variety of amazing styles, such as Leonard Nimoy's Primortals. Amazing. Here we have a little bit of reader interaction. One stays, one goes. Victorian or modern? You decide. Hey, this is pretty self-explanatory, so just pick which Mr. Hero you want. It's either the modern or the Victorian body. Cast your votes by checking one of these boxes. So this voting, of course, was to get your mailing address so that they can annoy you with spam. And it was in the guise of picking which of these Neil Gaiman's The Pneumatic Man was going to survive. Which one do you like? Tell me in the comments. Vote. The Victorian age or the modern age? Both of them look Victorian to me, but you tell me which one you like. And again, because these phone cards were a big deal back in the day, here we've got some Star Trek phone cards, which were also collectible. So from all the series of the day. But I see DS9 is being slighted, so I don't like that. And then the last couple of pages, just another one of these very hard-to-read pages with all the amazing techno stuff going on. So what were the titles at the time? Leonard Nimoy's Primortals, Neil Gaiman's Mr. Hero, The Pneumatic Man, Neil Gaiman's Technophage, Mickey Spillane's Mike Danger, Gene Roddenberry's Xander in the Lost Universe, Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice, John Jake's Millikan Empire, I don't remember that one at all, and coming soon, Isaac Asimov's iBots. So yeah, fascinating history into a comic publisher long gone, but you know, they had big names associated. It was just a bad time to get into comics. Even Jay Lee couldn't save you. This, of course, has got the image, idea of join the fan club, get your issue number 0, buy all of these copies of these things, and then do this stuff. So they were trying. And then finally at the end, one more backup cover here by the main artist of the comic. Pretty epic. So very enjoyable. 5 out of 5. So should you get it or shred it? Definitely get it if you want to have one of these artifacts of a bygone age. And you also need to get some of these other Brereton covers. Here we have issue number 3. I don't have number 2, so I'm missing out what's happening in the story. We've got issue number 3. Again, Lady Justice on the cover looking amazing. Issue number 4 switches plots to a different girl. Here we have Lady Justice inhabiting the body of a Chicana from the hood, That goes on to a few issues there before again switching bodies to another wronged woman. And then we got a volume 2 over here. So yeah, these Brereton covers are amazing, worth the price of admission. Interior art can be hit or miss, and sometimes it is a hit. Now, by this time on Volume 2, they had downgraded to cheap, the regular paper, that is. It wasn't the glossy paper anymore, and then it was not for this world. Oh, and also by this time, they were no longer Tekno Comix, they were Big Entertainment. So as an interesting historical artifact, yeah, check these out. They're not that many to collect if you want the whole series of Lady Justice. Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice. And so this week I read Lady Justice, Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice #1, published in 1995 by Tekno Comix. What did you think? Did you fall for the hype of Lady Justice back in the day as well? Had you ever heard of this? Never, or until I just mentioned it right now? Did you maybe check out the first issue and then fall off right away? Did you know that it actually was a spirit that was kind of transcending to several other women throughout, wearing your pager on your eye patch? Wow, that is incredibly 90s. And these are not stereotypes at all. Wow, pagers, those were a thing. I almost forgot about them. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, so I gotta go back and read these again. Well, I gotta get issue #2 and then complete my whole run and then read the whole run in peace so I can enjoy the complete epic of Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice. So once again, this week I read Neil Gaiman's Lady Justice #1, published in 1995 by Tekno Comix. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.